Hello everyone, this is Julia. Thank you so much for joining me on my craft room adventures. This is another Challenge a Crafty Friend, and this challenge was to use the Swan Soiree stamp set by Lawn Fawn and use it to make a box card. So this is what I came up with. I decided to make a Mother's Day card since that's coming up in May. And for the hearts from the Swan Soiree stamp set, I'm using R85, R81, and RV000. Just blending those in. And I stamped everything onto Neenah Solar White cardstock and stamped it with Gina Amalgam ink. I wanted to leave the swans mostly white, just for a tiny bit of shading. I'm using W1, W0, and W00. Just blending those in a little bit and fading everything out into the center with my blender pen. Using the same shades on the little swans. I did want my little swans to be a bit more gray because that's how they are in nature as well. And for the beaks, I'm using YR00 and Y17. Now for the cattails, I'm using E57, E55, and E53. Just blending the tops in. And for the greenery, I'm using G29, G17, G02, and G00. Just using that on the lily pads and on the greenery on the cattails. Then going in with G17 after to blend out the G29. Then the G02. And then blending everything out with a G00. And I really like this green combo. It works super well when you have die cuts that you ink blended with cracked pistachio. It's just a really pretty fit. For my lilies, water lilies, I'm using R85, R81, and RV000, just like I did on the hearts. Just doing a tiny bit of shading because the areas are really very small. I'm blending everything out with the RV000. Now I'm just showing you all of the die cut pieces for the box card. I cut the box card main piece twice. I cut 2 of the inside hill pieces, the decorative pieces for the flaps, some grassy hill borders, and some water hill borders. Now I'm just ink blending everything. I already showed you the ink blended part, but now I'll show you how I'm actually ink blending them. I'm using the Lawn Fawn Cloud Stencil just to ink blend the background, and in a minute I will be switching to using the Waffle Flower Water Media Mat because the tiny pieces just don't move around on that. There we go, that's much better. Just using tumbled glass to add some clouds. These will go onto the flaps of my box card. This is the part for the front. I also die cut the simple wavy borders and also the ocean wave accents, I believe they're called, so that I could add the little swans in there. And I die cut 2 of those pieces and I'm ink blending it with Peacock Feathers Oxide. I also die cut 3 of the little pieces and I just cut the borders, the simple wavy borders, and then ran them through with the panel dies for the decorative panels for the box, just so that the stitching lines would match up. Now I also used the Grassy border die by Lawn Fawn, to layer behind the ocean, or the, not ocean, the pond pieces. And I'm ink blending that with cracked pistachio and pine needles. Just using the pine needles on the very tips. Now I'm adding all of those pieces together. I'm layering the little water pieces on top of the panels, and I'm avoiding adding any glue to the little slits so that I will be able to add some images in there, which I won't be doing on the side panels in the end, but it was nice to have that option. Just wiping some glue away. Now I'm adding the grass behind there. Just making sure that I'm not gluing that part shut. This time I'm a little bit more careful with where I add the glue. And now it's time to assemble our box. I added some score tape to the little flaps, as you can see, on both sides. And I'm just using my bone folder to reinforce all of the score lines. I'm sorry that I'm halfway out of the frame there, but I think you can still see what I'm doing. I'm just bending all of the parts along the score lines except for one of the back pieces, and I'm just using my bone folder. This part I will not be folding because that will be the back of our card. And I'm doing the same thing for the other side, just folding along all of the flaps, all of the score lines to make sure everything will move nicely. And the paper I'm using is actually from the Spiffy Speckles cardstock by Lawn Fawn, the 6x6 inch paper pad. I did want to get the larger ones, but I didn't have them yet, so I basically just layered two pieces together and ran them through the die cut machine at the same time to have the outside and inside colored. I'm just removing the backing paper of the score tape and lining those pieces up right next to each other, making sure they're aligned, and then pressing down the score tape. Really making sure it sticks well. Now I'm adding in the hill panels, and I'm just adding in the plain white ones because I will be adding something to them. Removing the score tape and placing them on the short inside of the box, not the long pieces, but the you can see what I'm doing. I have no idea what to call that, but it's that will be the side of the box. Let's say it like that. Just adding the second one, making sure they're all lined up and straight. Removing the backing paper of the other side and just closing the other side of the box, making sure it lines up at the bottom. And then removing the next piece of score tape. It was a little bit crooked, so I just pushed it a tiny bit. And then I'm just lining it up and closing the box. Just pressing down on all of the places where I added some tape. Moving it a little bit back and forth. Reinforcing the score lines on the flaps again because I didn't want them to stick up as much, because when I added the two layers of the Spiffy Speckles paper, it did become quite thick. Now I'm just placing the cloud panel onto the back. And I'm sorry if these next few parts are a bit hard to see, because I had no way to angle it so that I could see and you could see inside the box as well. Just adding the pond layers. Needed a little bit more glue. Also adding some liquid glue to the back. And I'm just placing the third Grassy hill back there. Now it's time to stamp my sentiment, and I decided to go with Happy Mom Day from the Swan Soiree stamp set. I'm just lining it up on the panel using my embossing buddy to avoid any static cling. Using Versamark ink to ink up the stamp. And I will be heat embossing this with Ranger Superfine Embossing Powder in silver. Off to the side, my heat gun is already heating up so that it's nice and hot when I take it to the paper. I'm just using a brush to wipe away any stray embossing pieces or embossing powder. And then I'm just running it over the panel until the powder is smooth and melted. I decided to add a tiny little heart above the day. Just stamping that with Distress Oxide and Picked Raspberry. And then I'm adding my panels to the box. Just using liquid glue to make sure I have some wiggle room to line them up straight. Now the other side. This is where I stamped my test heart, just on the back. And that's the basis of my box card done. Now I'm just adding in the images. I started with placing the swan in the first just little slit with liquid glue. Doing the same for the second, just adding it where the ocean accent or wave accent created the slits so that it actually looks like they're in the water, which I think is super cute. I'm just adding the cattails, also using liquid glue, and there you can see that I added a little heart in the middle, which I didn't end up liking as much because it's a Mother's Day card and I prefer to have the card in the front. So I will just be removing that in a little bit and adding some clouds back there. Just layering the cattails to fill up the scene. Making sure it all works nicely. Now I'm just adding some clouds, which are from the Butterfly Kisses stamp set, and I just colored them with some BG 000 just for a little bit of shading and blended that out with a blender pen. And I'm just adding 3 there in the back. Now it's time to add my last cattail. Just decided to add it there in the center. Now I'm going to add 2 lily pads, 1 to each side of the flap, and also to each of the little pond pieces. And then for the front, I'm adding the heart. And I will also be adding 2 of the little baby swans, which I have no idea. I'm sure there's a name for that, but I don't know what it is, I'm sorry. So I added 2 little ones because my mom has 2 daughters, so I thought it would be fitting. Just lining them up. Now I'm adding some Nuvo Aqua Shimmer Pen in glitter gloss just on the flowers, the heart, also the clouds. And that finishes off my card for today. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and I really hope that my mom will like it, which I'm hoping she will. I really like how this box card turned out. I will link to Leanne's video down below because I'm sure she created an amazing card. Thank you so much for watching. I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel for more crafty videos. I will link to 2 more videos on screen that may interest you. Have a wonderful day. Bye!